Hello and welcome everyone back to Bortnik's YouTube channel. My name is James Talberg and I'm here again today with my colleagues, Ruslan, Bortnik and Marina Cherenkova. Colleagues, it's great to see you again.
Hello, James.
Hi, James. Thanks for having us.
So I think it's important to start with what's happening inside the USA. The so-called MAGA movement is somewhat breaking apart right now. And in my opinion, it's happening because the Israeli-Iran war. So some people that were kind of like the ideological leaders in that movement, such as Tucker Carlson, are strictly against the war. And despite some of people like Tucker Carlson, the attack, the US participation in the Israeli-Iran war still has happened. Marina, can you give us a little bit more insight and elaborate in terms of what is happening? Is there an actual split? What is the split about? And could that signal for us the end of the MAGA movement?
Thank you, James. I don't think it is the end of the MAGA movement, but what split demonstrates to all Americans that there are two very vivid and very active groups inside of MAGA movement. The one group is hawkish, or those in interventionalist groups, which people do believe in that group, that America is supreme power. It's the only way for America to survive when active war actions are going on in the different parts of the world. And the second group is, they call themselves as restrainers. They believe it's not the Monroe doctrine people, but the logic of restrainers is the following. Due to the fact that America now has very limited resources, priorities, especially in the sphere of the foreign policy, should be absolutely properly identified. And restrainers believe that the United States of America political class should be much more profound, educated, and aware of the global tendencies. That's the major, let's say, problem or cross line or border between those two camps. What worries me, I was, frankly speaking, James, slightly shocked with the interview of Ted Cruz, a legislator, when together with Tucker Carlson, suddenly we understand, we understand as the overall American people, we do understand that our legislators are not sure what is going on in the country, which is on the edge of the bigger war. Iran is a very big country with really strong nuclear capacities, with 94 million people, and legislator has no slightest idea what is that. So my question is, can America proceed with any structural foreign policy having such legislators on the top power pyramid?
Hold on, sorry, I just want to interrupt you here because it's important to kind of like figure out what's happening here. Is that just one specific legislator, or that's just the general trend with other legislators as well? Because if it's an individual case, that I know what you're referring to that interview with Tucker Carlson that Ted Cruz had, but if it's one specific individual, then it's an individual. It has nothing to do with the general trend. But if he's a representative of a movement of people that are not keen and are not knowledgeable in terms of the foreign policy, that's a different ballgame, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, and I'm very much afraid that that is the second case. He represents the group of people who sincerely believe that America should move forward and impose its agenda on other countries. But at the same time, that group of people are really far from understanding of the context. That's what worries me. that is extremely dangerous situation. I do believe that foreign policy of the United States is not in its best shape. A lot of things are changing. Different nations become much more mature and developed, and culture means a lot. Let me just tell you the story. Do we know how that Israel-Iran war could play out lately? We don't. We don't understand that. Nobody explains that to American people. But I have my own questions. Do we understand whether Iran, after everything what has happened, would not leave non-proliferation treaty? We don't. Do we understand what we should do as the United States if Supreme Leader revoke his fatwa of nuclear weapon development? We don't, because 90% of legislators of the United
Marina,
States
sir, I have to pause you. I think something that you've mentioned, a lot of people don't know it.
Yeah.
That the supreme leader of Iran,
fatwa?
He forbid from the development of a nuclear weapon. There is an internal there is an internal block by the supreme religious leader of Iran to develop a nuclear weapon, and I haven't heard anybody talking about it.
If we never heard anything, it doesn't mean that it could not happen. So nuclear fatwa refers to a religious decree issued by supreme leader of Iran. But do we have any scenario? Do we have any strategy if that fatwa would be revoked? And if we do, why we are not informed? One more, let's say, from my perspective, I would ask questions to those community who create foreign policy for my country. Why do we, as the United States, pay so much attention to Middle East with the limited resources? Middle East is just 5% of GDP and 5% of world's population. Where should we look for mitigation or conflict prevention? Probably it should be somewhere in East Asia, because GDP of East Asia around 60%, and East Asia probably about 30 or 40% of world's population. That's what I call priorities. You have to prioritize if your country has a limited resources. And why our country now has a limited resources, that is an explainable story due to the previous not extremely wise decision in foreign policy. And I'm talking about George Bush, I'm talking about President Biden, about Secretary Cheney, who imposed that liberal agenda together with the military actions to the Middle East previously, and to Ukraine as well. War means money. Money means resources. And the United States at this stage, not in the best shape financially, and we are not in the resourceful form, let me put it like that. So I do ask very simple questions. I just verbalize them. I'm vocal about those questions. The majority of Americans do think about that, but just don't discuss that.
Marina, I think you're absolutely correct. And I think that's exactly how Trump got into the office in the first place, because he was very vocal about isolation, protectionism, and just focusing on internal issues inside the United States and less about things that are happening in the world. Ruslan, that being said, I may live in my personal information bubble. We all do. But in my informational bubble, I picked up a signal that it looks like the Americans, and the majority of them, are not in support of American United States participation in the Israeli-Iran war. But they still have I was trying to understand for myself what are the pros for U.S. to participate in the Israeli-Iranian war, and accept the fact that Iran is exporting about 10-15% of the oil that China is consuming. I didn't find any other pros for U.S. to participate in that war. Obviously, there are a lot of political reasons, political ideologies helping Israel, bringing democracy elsewhere again, elaborating the people of Iran, whatever, you name it. But I care less about the political component. I care less about the political agenda that certain people can impose here. But if we try and understand the technical component, is that a positive move for the United States to interfere, to destroy the nuclear facilities, to destroy the potential nuclear capacities of Iran, or there are no technical advantages long term that US can gain out of that participation?
I think in general estimation, Trump's administration is trying to undermine the China consumption of energy. Of course, this 10 or 15% is are very important for China.
It's
in
a
any
lot,
case,
of course.
it's a lot, and moreover, Iran was the main ally of China in the region and main ally of Russia in the region. These two main United States competitors for now. So there is a significant geopolitical issue in this question. But I think the main reason, the main goal for Trump's administration, it's looking for a victory. Trump is looking for a significant victory from political side. Trump is trying to show some examples of American power or of American success abroad, outside doings, because inside nothing is not everything is good, and the honeymoon of Trump's administration is ended. Now they are making a test for the political future, starting this making the test. They don't have any significant successes and victories. If the Trump were more successful, I think there will not be such many complaints against him. His ratings is going down in the United States, slowly by going down. So he's looking for a lucky punch, for a very bright move, for a very bright result outside. At the same time, he's trying to compete to undermine the main United States competitors in this moment. Of course, the Israeli topic is very important. The energy topic is very important. But this war is more symbolic than real from United States, because look what United States is doing. It's symbolic doings, like it was in Syria in 2017. These symbolic strikes without a significant result. We cannot wait this result for nowadays. Even more, Iran do the same. The symbolic strikes, defense strikes, or counter strikes against the United States strikes, but there is no a real war between them. Real war is only between the Israel and Iran. But even in this case, we have Iraq and other countries between them. So even their war, Iranian-Israeli war, it's only a air war. It's not a land war. It's not a total war. It's not a trenches war. So this war, air war, is also very limited in consequences in any case. So we have situation of some symbolic play, some global political theater, taking into account also practical results, which could be much fewer than this symbolical part.
Colleagues, what's next? The Ukrainian-Russian conflict is full power on. The show must go on. The Israel-Iranian war, we've heard that Trump achieved ceasefire, but just this morning I read that both sides apparently violated the ceasefire. So we have the continuation of the escalation on different front lines. What's next? Will there be a cool down, a reset, or we'll have a third escalation point in a different region or between different countries coming up soon? If there are any new points, any new conflicts that can arise, can we pinpoint them to know what potentially can happen next?
Ruslan, the floor is yours.
Okay, I think the instability and uncertainty will be growing up, and global instability and uncertainty, because the new empires are trying to divide the zone of influence everywhere in Eastern Europe, in Middle East, or in South Asia, everywhere. They are trying to divide this new zone of influence. And I think this process also will be very dangerous for internal climate of these empires. Even in the United States, this instability and uncertainty inside of United States will be growing up also. And as I see, China, Russia, and other United States competitors are waiting for the collapse or unsuccess of Trump's administration, because they are sure that this will lead to elimination of the abilities of United States abroad. They are they were looking and waiting for a growing up of internal political fight inside of United States, except before the midterm elections to the Congress of United States next year. And I think in the best scenario, we are just able just to freeze some conflict and to change the target of this global competition, to move this target to another regions. But we are not able to stop this broken of this old global security architecture, which is fatally broken, which has fallen down now in our eyes.
In terms of the time frame, Ruslan, how long do you think that system will continue to collapse before we'll see a rise of a new system? 5, 10 years, 15? Can we give a rough estimation?
I think we need not less than 10 years more for the collapse in the whole system, and not less than 10 years plus for building something else, something
so
new.
We're in that turmoil for about 20 years. And last thing that I want to discuss, because we want to limit those episodes by at most 30 minutes. Since I was a teenager, I don't know where, I can't remember the people who said that they were analysts, they were politicians, but I've heard it a ton that the war between Iran and Israel will happen in 2024, 2022, around those years. We're a little bit behind. It's 2025, but I've just heard a lot of predictions that the escalation will happen after the 2020s. I've also heard that around the years 2027, 2028, China will try to invade Taiwan. So now my question is, will that prediction, that analysis can justify itself as well, and we'll see China invading Taiwan in a few years?
Is this question for me?
For anybody who wants to jump in,
Marina?
let's brainstorm on that together.
Look, I don't believe in predictions. I believe in analysis, and it's for me complicated to. I mean, I will be straightforward. I don't want that to happen. That's why I try to be very pragmatic. I believe that inside of the MAGA, what I detected, inside of the MAGA emerging a really, really good group of young politicians who used to be veterans and soldiers in Iraq war, they understand, by the way, they were absolutely against involvement of the US military in Israel-Iran conflict. And I hope that that young generation, G.D. Vance belongs to that generation, Colby belongs to that generation, Dent Coldward belongs to that generation. That group of people, restrainers, could be a bit wiser, much more profound in foreign policy. And I hope that everything what you've heard during your teenager years will not happen.
Hopefully, I agree. Let's hope so. Ruslan, what do you think? How high is the risk of China invading Taiwan? I have once asked one of my Chinese friends, just why would China go for it? China is always trying to be very neutral, rational, pragmatic, economy, money, business, trying to balance as much as they can. That would be a complete out of trend move for them if they will go for Taiwan. And that friend of mine has said, well, there is a lot of hidden instability in China. The quality of life is slowly shifting down. The economical situation is slowly shifting down. There are a lot of economical problems in China that at some point China will have no other choice, but just like any other countries, just like you mentioned with Trump that is looking for bright, fast, successful missions, the exact same thing can happen with China. To remain in power, the political party, the political regime will have to go for this old school methodology. We need an external, fast and easy and very successful, very celebratory win to stay in power. What are the chances of that direction developing?
China exhausted old model of development. It's really seen for now. So China is not able to freely use international trade to involve Western technologies, to have a free access to Western markets now, because everywhere new borders, tax borders, political borders are growing up. So China exhausted the old model of development, but China is not so good developed like the West. So China is not able to just to stop, to pause its own development, because it means the degradation, the stepping back for China, just to pause its own development for nowadays. China has no has no old monies, has a lot of resources, supplies inside of its own. So it means China needs to do something other than China did in previous time. So I think the previous China policy, trade and economy in the angle like a main target, main reasons of development is also ending in our eyes. And China has now standing on the crossroad, what to do further, or to accept the United States demands, European demands, and stay only in the role of a supplier, the smaller, minor supplier for these markets, the very addicted economy from the Europe and especially United States, or to start to develop the new empire. But new empire should be born only after the war, after the successful war. And I think China now, also because of that reasons you stated before, China now is more closer to the military operation again, Taiwan, than to continuation long-term for years negotiation on this topic. And the more crisis for China, more restricted markets for China, the more risks for a military operation against Taiwan, and moreover, more military operations of Chinese troops abroad everywhere when the Chinese interests questioned by the other competitors.
Colleagues, thank you so much for today. Guys, please like, share, and comment. And if you like that rational analysis and you want to see more, let us know in the comments so we know we should continue our work. Colleagues, thank you again, and I'll see you back in the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Bye.